So here's a question I've been getting a lot lately from families who've been researching Tampa Bay for the past year or two. Juan, we're waiting on that big Florida property tax cut before we make our move. And in true political fashion, it looks like Florida legislature probably just canceled the deal again. So now you're probably wondering, should you keep waiting? Or is there something else we should be looking at? And honestly, that's a legitimate question. And I really want to help you get a legitimate answer, not just the one that gets you to reach out to me faster, but the one that actually helps you make the best decision for you and your family. Because in the last 30 days, the Florida legislature wrapped up its regular session and two things happened that I think anyone who's seriously considering relocation needs to understand. And one of them got almost no coverage at all. The other got way too much, and honestly, up until this point, most of it has been wrong. So if you've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the math to make sense, this video is gonna be for you. And make sure you stick around to the end because honestly, I think you're gonna have a lot more clarity than you do right now. And if we've never met before, my name is Juan Alcala, and a little over 7 years ago, my wife Kate and I packed up our family of 5, sold almost everything we owned, and moved 1,200 miles south here to Tampa Bay. And honestly, we've been loving it ever since. And we've also helped over 200 families make the exact same move. And honestly, I'm sharing that with you not to establish credentials, but because I have a front row seat on what makes people delay a move that they really know in their gut is the right decision. And there's a pattern that I keep seeing. Analytical people like me, people who are very good at research and love to do it, sometimes use one or more variable as a reason not to make a move. We hold tight, right? We call that analysis paralysis. And the property tax bill, well, that's just the latest version of that variable. And I've seen this pattern a lot over the last 5 years. People will wait 6, 10, 12, even 18 months, for something to change, or a policy just like this one that died in a committee's hands. And that's usually 18 more months of New York, New Jersey, or Seattle property taxes, 18 more months of winters, and 18 more months of commutes. And what it really boils down to, it's 18 less months of the lifestyle that you really wanted to begin with. I'm saying this because I want you to see the actual math in front of you right now. And for the first time in a few years, that math is actually pretty clean. Let's start with the thing that nobody was talking about while everyone else was watching the property tax drama. On February 23rd this year, the Florida FIGA voted unanimously to end the 1% emergency surcharge on Florida homeowners' policies, 2 years ahead of schedule. Now I know 1% sounds small, but let me tell you what it actually means to you. Back in 2023, after a wave of insurance companies became insolvent, 10 companies went under. They went out of business. And the FIGA levied this 1% emergency assessment on all property tax policies in the state of Florida. And it was meant to stay in place through 2028. And this money was needed to repay the bonds that they'd issued to cover claims from those failed companies. Now here's what actually happened. The 2025 hurricane season was really quiet. As a matter of fact, we had no hurricanes hit Florida at all in 2025. It was amazing. And the legal system abuse and the claim fraud that was destroying the Florida insurance market, the tort reforms from 2022 started actually working. There was a lot of change over this time period. The market stabilized faster than anyone really expected. The bonds got paid off early, and the FIGA ended the assessment 2 years ahead of schedule. As a Florida homeowner, I am a huge fan, and I am so grateful for this. And what that meant to us is the state ended up saving about $650 million. That's real money. Now the per household dollar amount, it is definitely more modest. Now on a $3,500 annual homeowner's premium, which is a little bit more than mine, you're looking at about $35 a year. On a $5,000 premium, it's about $50. And let's be honest, that is not life-changing money for anyone. And if that's all this was, I wouldn't be making a video about it. But here's what actually matters about this announcement. The Florida Insurance Commissioner said that the market has stabilized, not because politicians forced it, because the underlying fundamentals actually improved. And think about what this means to you if you've been worried about Florida's homeowners insurance costs. The narrative you've been hearing, Florida's insurance is a ticking time bomb. That narrative just took its first official counterpunch right on the chin. And starting on October 1st, 2026, your escrow payment on Florida homeowners insurance drops automatically, structurally, and this is going to happen regardless of what else happens in the market. And that's not hope, which is not a strategy. That's a calendar date, which is a deliverable. Now, I know for most people, Florida's insurance is still higher than what you're paying in, say, Minnesota. And I'm definitely not gonna sit here and pretend that that's not the truth, but this is part of the lifestyle tax that we pay to live in such a beautiful area, especially near the coast. But the real thing that I'm looking at here is the fact that we are trending in the right direction, and this has made a change for good. I've also seen my personal auto insurance drop for the last 2 years significantly. I'm talking $300 or $400 annually for the last 2 years, which again, I know isn't huge money, but it's enough to send one of our kids to summer camp. So what does this mean to you? If part of your hesitation about moving to Florida has been insurance getting worse every year, you now have data that says the opposite is starting to happen. Let me tell you what actually happened with Florida property taxes in the 2026 session. Because if you've been reading all the headlines or if you've been watching all the videos, you probably have gotten a fairly distorted picture so far. And going into this year, there was 7 different House joint resolutions floating around that would have changed Florida's property tax structure in various ways. And the most aggressive of those bills was the HJR 201. We've spoke about it a lot on this channel, which would have eliminated all non-school property taxes for homesteaded properties. That means you have to be a Florida resident. And that reduction would equal about 55 to 65% of your total annual tax bill, which is a lot of money depending on what communities you live in. But the reality is, it didn't even get a floor vote. It died in the committee on March 13th. And the version that actually made it the furthest was the HJR 203, a gradual 10-year phase out. This is where they take a little bit away from the government every single year over the next decade. And that passed the full House 80 to 30. But that one died in the Senate on the last day without even getting a hearing. But here's the nuance that I think we should all hold on to. The story isn't over quite yet. The governor has called a special session for the week of April 20th. The Senate is expected to put forward its own version, and every signal suggests that it will be significantly more modest than what the House has passed. But my goal here is to be a guide, not a hype man. So I'm gonna walk you through some honest math. For any property tax change to affect your 2027 bill, here's what has to happen. The legislature needs to pass something with a 60% supermajority in both chambers. Then it goes to the November ballot where the 60% of Florida voters have to approve it. So when you're doing your long-range financial planning or when you're building out those spreadsheets for what life looks like in Tampa Bay, I want you to model around today's tax rates, not a hypothetical ballot outcome that we cannot guarantee. And here's the key reframe, if you will. The tax bill being uncertain isn't new information. It's been uncertain since the day it was filed. The people who have been waiting for the tax cut have been waiting for a variable that was never actually in their control. And what has changed is the uncertainty has become more clear. And the dream of a 50% property tax cut, which honestly I would love to see really landing in 2027, it's off the table for now. And likely is going to be replaced with a more modest change, if you will, that will come from the special session. But what that really does is allows me and you to calculate our taxes around reality instead of a moving target. So what I want to do now is put Florida's current property taxes in context, because this is where people from New York, New Jersey often surprise themselves. If you're selling a home in New Jersey, you're probably paying around $12,000 to $18,000 a year in property taxes. And in areas like Wesley Chapel or Lakewood Ranch, on a comparable home, and that's the point, comparable, you're typically looking at a $6,000 to $9,000 tax bill. And there's no state income tax. And that reality exists today regardless of what happens in April at the special session. So you should be getting signals that say, stop waiting for Tallahassee to give you permission. The math already works. And that special session should be nothing more than an upside opportunity, not a prerequisite to make a final decision. So you've got a concrete insurance win coming in October. You've got tax clarity, not tax elimination, but clarity, which for savvy home buyers can really bring peace to a very difficult decision. Now let's talk about what the Tampa Bay real estate market actually looks like for someone ready to make the move. Now I'm going to share with you the market reality right now, and I want to make sure to be straight with you. Tampa Bay is in the best buyer position it has been since before the pandemic. Our inventory is roughly up 18% compared to this time last year, and depending on which neighborhood or community you're really looking into, there's somewhere between 3.5 to 5.5 months of inventory. And the national average is sitting around 3.8. Homes are sitting on the market usually 60 to 80 days in many areas, not every single neighborhood. Some of them go really fast because they're super desirable, and some of them take much longer. And that's compared to the 47 or 54 days we were selling a year ago. So some of those cases is a lot longer. And here's what me and my team are seeing when we're working with clients. We're seeing sellers offering concessions to buyers. They're offering rate buy downs, builders definitely, closing cost assistance to buyers, inspection credits. that were basically non-existent 2 or 3 years ago. Now listen, I know I got a little bit nerdy there, but let me translate what this means for your move. If you're a family coming from the Northeast looking at Wesley Chapel or Lakewood Ranch as an example, you now have time to do this right. You're not walking into a bidding war on day one like you have back at home. You can do that Airbnb trip and spend a couple weeks in 2 or 3 communities, really letting your family feel what life is like there. And then when you know exactly where you want to raise your family, you can then engage in the market. And honestly, that's a luxury that did not exist in 2022 and 2023. Trust me, people were writing multiple offers to get properties accepted back then regularly. But like I said before, well-priced homes in desirable non-flood zone communities are still moving. Some of them very fast, some of them slow, depending on where it's at. You know, areas like we talked about, Wesley Chapel, Lakewood Ranch, Land O'Lakes, West Chase, Parrish, Seaflower down at Bradenton, the stuff that checks all the boxes, that's not sitting on the market for 80 days. Some of those neighborhoods or villages within those communities are ultra competitive, while others offer a lot of flexibilities for you as a home buyer. So make sure you're doing your homework. Reach out to us with questions you may have. And here's the big picture that I really want you to take away from this: the strategic floor. 3 things just got set simultaneously. Insurance is trending in the right direction and even has a hard calendar date for improvement. The extreme tax scenario currently is off the table, which removes the maybe I'll wait for the 50% off thinking. And inventory is up, giving you negotiation power that you haven't had in years. And that combination, improving insurance, clarified tax reality, and buyer leverage, has genuinely not existed at the same time in this market since before 2021. And it's funny, I've been helping people move since 2012, and when we moved here in December of 2019, I actually had to write multiple offers. I missed out on 2 properties, and that was back during a normal market. So I get it. And we've helped over 200 families make that exact same move. And I cannot remember the last time someone called me and said, Juan, I wish I would have waited. And the people I've watched wait the longest, waiting for interest rates to drop, waiting for insurance to change, watching the tax bills, most of them are still waiting. And honestly, they probably will be in another 2 or 3 years. And remember this: houses are easy, and it's easy for me to say that because we're in them all the time, but communities and community shopping, that's the difficult part. That's the one that you want to get right. Because the communities you want to live in, the ones with A-rated schools, the walkable town centers, the non-flood zones, the right vibe for your family, those don't go on sale when the market shifts. You find them when you're ready, but they are there when you're ready to look. So let me slow this down and pull this all together. The FIGA assessment ends October 1st. Insurance is finally trending in the right direction. The 50% property tax elimination is officially off the table again, and we won't know more about that till after the special session on April 20th. And the Tampa Bay market right now is really favorable towards buyers, giving you leverage that you haven't had in years. And all that legislative noise up in Tallahassee, really, that ends up being the same thing that most of these are, which is promises from politicians, the idea of a plan, and then policies that never really come to fruition. And honestly, if I had to bet on it, do I believe that something will happen? Yes. Do I think that we're gonna get 50% off of our taxes by the end of this year? Absolutely not. And the reality is most of our clients choose to move to the area because this is the lifestyle they've always dreamed of. And the best time to make this move is honestly the best time for you. That's your decision to make, not for somebody on YouTube like myself to say, you absolutely have to do this, because the reality is Tampa Bay is not for everyone. There are people who move here that don't do it the right way and turn out miserable because they didn't follow the process. And there are people like myself who come here and are so grateful we made the decision and really disappointed we didn't do it sooner. So if you're trying to figure out what this means for you and your specific situation, your timeline, your budget, the communities that actually match that ideal lifestyle that you and your family want to live, that's exactly what we do. If you look down below, you'll see a link that'll take you to our website. It'll ask you just a couple basic questions, and then behind that, you'll actually get access to my personal calendar. We'll jump on Zoom. I'll walk you through the communities in the areas that you describe to us so you can do meaningful homework ahead of time. Reassure yourself that you are making a great decision, not just an excited one. And if you got any value out of today's video, hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, don't hesitate to hit the subscribe. But before you go, I'm going to put one more video up here at the end that is going to talk about what is happening with Tampa home prices in detail. Are you catching a falling knife, or is this truly the opportunity of a lifetime? Well, only you'll be able to make that decision, and I hope that video is helpful. And as always, until next time, go out and live that Tampa life.